Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and it's a jam-packed show this morning. We'll be talking about, obviously, SOLSKJAER'S, a sale, maybe Lingard, maybe Donny. We'll also be talking about Camavinga, Neves, Kimmich, Goretzka, Paul Pogba, lots of other things as well as Manchester United. Look, I want to start on a positive and say there is time. Solskjaer does have late transfer hope and there is time, but yet again, I think we can categorise Manchester United's transfer window, no matter how good it's been with Varane and Sancho, that we are heading into this chaotic, disorganised mess at the end of a transfer window that we seem to do every single transfer window. We'll talk about that, but first of all, I just want to say it is transfer window open. There's loads of news going on at the moment. The new season has started with a brand, and as always, I am pleased to say that OneFootball is back to support the United Stand. Let me just whack it up on the screen for you here. You can see the OneFootball app in all its glory. I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about OneFootball plenty of times before, so you know it's the best place around to get your scores, your transfer news, and up-to-date content surrounding your club and leagues and other clubs as well. It's not just about Manchester United. I use it almost every day, especially when I'm out and about, to get all the latest United news. So what are you waiting for? Head to the link in the video description and you can download it for free using the link in the description below. Right, we'll get on with the show, but it's available for free. It's on Apple, it's on Android, and you can get all the latest news at the moment. Look, there's loads of stuff going on. Mbappe to Real Madrid, Ronaldo to Manchester City, all sorts of stuff. Maybe still Harry Kane going to City, Chelsea looking at players as well, Kunde. But look, links in the video description. Give it a download. Big shout out to OneFootball, and it's free to download as well. But that's where I want to start this morning as well. There's news coming out of The Athletic, there's news coming out of The Telegraph about SOLSKJAER'S, so I'll give you that update straight away. This is fresh news this morning. But I just, the headline I sort of wanted to start off with today, because people were like, and look, I take it on board, I do read it. People say, oh, you were a bit moany last night, you'd had a break and you're moaning already. And you know why I'm moaning? I'm not even moaning at anybody individually. It's just a frustration. It's a frustration. Like, I don't like that the Glazers own the club, but I'm not just ranting at them. I'm trying to, like every United fan, we just want to be heard. We want to be a bloody football club. That's what we want to be. We don't want to be a business. Why is Manchester United support even... I can't believe they even put it out. We do get stuff coming out all the time about challenging markets and COVID and lack of fans in the ground. And I'm like, Arsenal have spent 130 million. That's 30 million more than we've spent. And I think they outspent us last year and the year before. That's Arsenal. Real Madrid have just put an offer in of around 150 million pounds for Mbappe. That's 50 million pounds more than we've spent. And yet La Liga's on its knees and they're desperate for a Super League. We have to sell to buy. We need a midfielder, and we are being told publicly through leaks from the club to certain journalists that we've got to sell to buy. Manchester United need a midfielder to be in a title race, but they are happy to put out that we've got to sell to buy. Manchester United have got to sell to buy. Camavinga's available for 25 million. SOLSKJAER'S is free, and Ruben Neves is probably about 35 million. These are not massive amounts of money for big top 4 Premier League football clubs. 35 million can be found. They've taken debt fucking loans out to put us in debt and dividends more than that. So it just frustrates me that as a football club, they are so confident in their position of making money and turning us into a brand and a business that they're more than happy to put it out there that we can't buy a midfielder because we've got to sell to buy. And I'm like, I can't believe we're Manchester United. Basically, we're sat here in the last week of the transfer window watching Chelsea and Man City, who are in our league and are our rivals. We're going to be watching the Chelsea and Man City show as those two try and compete with each other to win the league, and we just sat there counting our bank balance going, well, we've got to sell to buy. We're a bloody football club. We're a football club. And what really annoys me the most, and I'm going to talk about the news now, but I did want to get this across because I think this is really important. We've got to sell to buy, right? Everybody knows that United has got the most overpaid, full of dead wood, massive squad in the Premier League. Our squad is huge, half of it's not good enough, and they are massively overpaid. We've got the most bloated, expensive squad in the league. You give that squad to Chelsea for 5 minutes and they'd probably get 100 million for 5 of our shit players because they sell well. But we've got a bloated, overpaid squad, right? Guess how many players we've sold in the last 2 seasons? Last transfer window, this transfer window. Guess how many players we've sold for money in the last 2 years, despite having a bloated squad for about 6 years. We've sold 1 player in the last 2 summer transfer windows, it was Chris Smalling for 13 million. That is bloody abysmal. Abysmal. And yet, some of our fans have swallowed the nonsense this year that you can take somebody that works at the club already, call them a director of football, and people go, oh, it's all changed. It's all changed at United now. We've bossed this transfer window. We've got Murta, we've got Fletcher. Woodward's walking in like a boss now. Is Woodward even leaving now? I don't know. They've basically moved somebody within the club, created a director of football role, and nothing has changed. In the last 2 years, the last 2 summer transfer windows, we've sold one player. One player for money. Chris Smalling in 2 summer transfer windows from a squad that is full of deadwood. That is shocking. And that is why we are sat here again at the end of a transfer window going, why have we not got a midfielder? Because they buy Sancho and they buy Varane and they want your eyes on that, because the reality is, behind the scenes, it's a bloody mess and they couldn't sell a cow at a market. They couldn't do it. They absolutely couldn't do it. They couldn't sell a cow to Ronald McDonald. They couldn't do it. I'm sorry, but he does buy them. Anyway, look, let's get on with the news. But I just wanted to get that in there because I think it's really important. We need to sell to buy at Manchester United. We've sold one player from our huge bloated squad for money in the last 2 summer transfer windows, and that's the problem. And yet they want to pretend that this is a new United, that everything's changing, that we're working better in the transfer market. Chelsea are about to sell Zuma to West Ham for £30 million. West Ham won't buy Lingard from us for 30 million. What is going on? What is going on? It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, let's get into the news. We can come back to that. So, let's get on with this. Ronald McDonald runs McDonald's. He's the clown who runs it. Unlike the clown who runs Manchester United, who can't sell anything. Right, the reality is we're going to start talking about this. So, let's start off with Saul Niguez. There is still time. There is still time for Manchester United to do a deal. But it does revolve around selling players. Now, Lingard is being mentioned as a player that still can be sold. The last I heard about Jesse Lingard is that it's very unlikely that he will be sold because Ollie sees him as part of the plans now. But Lingard is universally, as you've been talking about for weeks, to be fair, Lingard is the player that is and has value and could be sold. Dan James is another one. I spoke to somebody this morning and I said, look, I basically said this morning, we are being told that Man United have got to sell to buy. Who is going to be sold? And what they said this morning is, yeah, United do need to sell to buy. It's been put out by the club to so many different places that this is the line they're going down, which frustrates me, which I've just said. But I said, well, we've got to sell to buy, but who are we going to sell? Like, nobody's going to buy Phil Jones. We're not selling Delo now, and if we sold Delo, we'd have to buy Trippier, so that's not happening. Who are we going to sell? And I was told this morning that, well, it's not rocket science. Lingard is the player that needs to be sold. But Ollie has already started using him. He brought him on instead of Donny and Dan James against Southampton, even though he clearly wasn't fit. So is that Ollie trying to put him in the shop window, or is that Ollie saying he's keeping him? Nobody really knows about Lingard, but he's the most likely one to sell. And also, I was told it again this morning that actually you could have sold Dan James for 25 million like that. There were 3 Premier League clubs that would have took Dan James for 25 million. So the reality is we are... It goes back what I'm saying. We're being run by clowns, basically. We are being run by clowns because they're saying they've got to sell to buy, but they've had offers for players who are squad players, and it's good money. Basically, we could have sold Dan James for the money it would take to get Camavinga. So if we end up with no midfielder next week, somebody is accountable. Now, whether that's the board saying we're not selling Dan James or whether it's Ollie saying we're not selling Dan James, the reality is United could have sold £50 million worth of players this summer. And what I was also told this morning is, and look, you're not going to like this one, but I was told this morning, and again, it's logical. They could have sold Dean Henderson for 40 million as well. Like, there were clubs that would have took Dean Henderson. They couldn't sell De Gea because of the wages De Gea's on, but they could have sold Dean Henderson for 40 million. And the reality is, Solskjaer, the club, decided not to do it for whatever reason and chose to keep 2 goalkeepers. One's on 350 grand a week, one's on 140 grand a week. Neither of them are going to be happy this year because they're going to be fighting with each other, and they could have sold. So, look, I suppose that's an angle we don't think about. We could have sold a goalkeeper this summer. We could have made about 70 million in sales this summer. We've made Nothing, because we're incompetent in the transfer window. We are always, in relation to selling, we're always sold false promises by these owners, and the sad thing is many United fans fall into the trap. Tyrese, well, they do, you know, they do, because Sancho and Varane are headline signings. They're made to make you feel good because they're superstar players. But it's a bit like Real Madrid in the early noughties when they used to go around buying Beckham and Zidane and Carlos. They didn't build a team. They just bought Galacticos, and their fans loved it. But they struggled because they didn't build a team. I think United are going through that era with the Glazers. They know that the Galactico signing will sell shirts and get people excited. But, you know, we need to build a team. We really do. Difference between Man United and other big clubs. PSG will want to get rid of Navas now Donnarumma is in. Oli doesn't want to make those big decisions, says Pratosaurus Rex. Let's talk about Saul Niguez. So somebody just said there, Saul Niguez to Chelsea. The interesting thing is, and let me just shout out the person who said it, it's Charlie MUFC. The interesting thing about Saul Niguez is that you can get good updates in relation to Chelsea from Matt Law, who is a Telegraph journalist. He gave us the update on Declan Rice last week. He's saying this morning that Chelsea aren't ahead of Manchester United and United are not ahead of Chelsea on this. Saul Niguez has been offered to those clubs. It's about who's going to press the button first. So Saul Niguez is very much an option for Manchester United and Chelsea. But as I said yesterday, I feel that Saul Niguez is a player that Chelsea and Manchester United are monitoring. And The Athletic have said this morning that there are people close to Manchester United who feel that Saul Niguez to Manchester United is a deal that could happen very, very quickly. And at this late stage in the window, I've got to say I'd take Saul Niguez over nothing, 100%. Whether I still think we're missing, I think we're missing a massive trick with Basuma, by the way. I don't know why we've not gone in there, but we're not going to go there. Neves is interesting. Camavinga is interesting. We've got to get one of those three players in the next week because at the moment I feel like we won't get any. So Saul Niguez is very interesting to me, and he's very interesting to Chelsea and Manchester United. But the reality is, you know, the Athletic sort of hint at it. Matt Law hints at it as well. The attraction with Saul Niguez for Chelsea and Manchester United is that it's a loan deal for a year. And his pedigree is very good, but it wasn't last year. And he's free. You don't need to spend any money. So if you bring Saul Niguez in, he comes into the squad. If he does well, happy days. If he doesn't do well, you send him back. You've not lost anything either way other than the wages that you pay. That's the attraction. Neither club has pressed the button yet. I would query here why we've not pressed the button on Saul Niguez yet. Because is that hope that we might be actually looking to buy somebody like a Camavinga? Or is it that we are so focused on money that we won't even bring a player in on loan? Because the cost of Saul Niguez is minimal. And we need a midfielder. Same season as last year, same tactics. Fred carried by individual talent. Don't want Oli to fail, but poor treatment of Donny and no silverware marks the legacy. Bad decisions top to bottom, says Edward. Mark, Oli can't make his mind up on in-game subs. Imagine him on selling players, says Chris. And if there were offers refused, then it's Oli saying I need those players. The club will not keep players Oli doesn't need, says Mr. Awillo. Yeah, but there is history at Manchester United of not selling players. Like Mourinho wanted Martial to go and they wouldn't sell him. So that's why I wouldn't put it totally on Oli about these offers, because you just don't know how you know. The reality is Oli is a puppet to the Glazers, just like Mourinho was and Van Gaal was. Mourinho and Van Gaal were very strong-willed managers and they clashed with United a lot, but ultimately the Glazers and Woodward run that club. Oli can't say sell that player. It's down to them to do it. It's down to them to run the deal through. And if you don't know that, you don't know United. People call Oli a mouthpiece of the Glazers. Well, you can't have it. You can't have it both ways. Look, when the Super League came out, there was that rumour that the fans approached Oli at Carrington and he said they're good guys. That was that was when fans were furious. You can't say Oli's a mouthpiece to the Glazers and a puppet to the Glazers, then say he's refusing to sell players. It's he's either a mouthpiece for the Glazers or he's not. Saul still isn't a specialist CDM. That's what we need. It breaks me Oli hasn't pushed for one, says Mark Jones. Yeah, I would say here that United are fully aware that they need a holding midfielder, and why we haven't got one is because we haven't sold anybody. This is out there. Now, I agree. I think Saul Niguez is an interesting signing on a free deal for a year, but is he a holding midfielder? No, not in the way that United want one. United want a holding midfielder. Now, Camavinga is a player that we're very much interested in. We've been interested in him for weeks and weeks and weeks. To buy Camavinga, we're going to have to sell. I don't agree with this buy, by the way. £30 million, United should have that. I think it's a disgrace that they are actually allowed And we as fans sit here and go, you know what, we've got to sell to buy. In fact, I'm going to stop saying it. We don't need to sell to buy. We don't. It's just a line from the Glazers to keep their bank balance ticking over. We don't need to sell to buy. I saw something today. We are the 4th richest club in relation to revenue last year. We're the number 1 Premier League club for revenue. £550 million in revenue, apparently. We don't need to sell to buy. The Glazers, over the last 2 years, have probably taken 30, 40 million pounds in dividends. We're in 600 million pounds worth of debt. Give or take 100 million or what. We don't need to sell to buy. We took a loan out for 100 million a year ago. We took dividends out of our club this summer. We don't need to sell to buy. We don't need to sell to buy. We're Manchester United. This is just nonsense all the time because they infect us with their business-mindedness stuff. Like, they actually don't care anymore because they actually will put it out into the press that we need to sell to buy, that times are hard. They're not hard. They're not hard for Manchester United. Like, they're not. We could spend £30 million on a player now easily, because we all know that the Sancho and the Varane deals are being done in instalments over the next 40 years. We could buy somebody now. The reality is they probably don't want to buy somebody now because there's a dividend coming out at Christmas or something like that. Why are we unable to buy a player first with the plan to sell a player after? It's ridiculous that it's so clear that we're so close to a proper squad, says Julian. And that's the thing that frustrates me the most. I genuinely believe if we had a holding midfielder, barring injury to that holding midfielder, we'd put ourselves in a great chance of actually being competitive in the Premier League title race and competitive in the Champions League this year. Without one, I think we're Bagel FC, and we saw that last week. So the fact that we're sat there saying we need to sell to buy just shows what many of you know. We're a business and we're not a football club, because a football club... I mean, look, this is the decision. For anybody who's struggling with this is the decision that Manchester United face in the next 7 days, right? You can put whoever you want in this meeting, put yourself in it, right? Man United owners, Man United board, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, whoever, right? You sat there and you're going, right, we need a holding midfielder. That's the one thing we need, and then that team is set. We can challenge for the title. We need a holding midfielder. And the board go, you're not having one, you've got to sell to buy. And you go, well, that's your job to sell. I can't sell the player. I'm the manager. I can't go out selling players. That's your job. What if I go... I'll tell you what, I'll go and sell Bruno now for 100 million. Or you can't sell Bruno. Exactly. Sell the players then that will raise the money. Well, we can't because we're useless. I need £30 million. £30 million, and I can get a holding midfielder that will make us a better team. 30 million. Well, we're not giving it you. And that's the problem. We're not talking about 90 million for Declan Rice. We're talking around 30 million because Camavinga's about 25, 30. Obviously, Saul Niguez is free. Not really a holding midfielder, maybe. But Ruben Neves, probably around sort of 35 million. Certainly, you can do instalments with Wolves because that's what Liverpool did with Jota. So the player's there, but they just won't open up the world to do it. United shouldn't even allow the possibility of Ronaldo joining City. Glazers have ruined our club and expectations, yet we accept it, says Daniel Kirk. Thanks for all the super chats this morning. I still think there's time for Manchester United to do business. I think a competent club would do business. For me, I saw somebody this morning saying that Lingard is likely to leave Manchester United. Everything I've been told is that the only player United can sell in the next week that's got value is Jesse Lingard. But it's unlikely at this moment in time. It's not likely, it's unlikely. That can change, but Lingard is apparently not that fussed about moving, and Solskjaer himself is not that fussed about Lingard going either. Well, not fussed doesn't really fill you with confidence that something can be done very quickly. And the fact that, what annoys me is that the fact that we've not been able to create this deal, because West Ham at the moment, as I said, are looking to spend 25 to 30 million pounds on Zuma. He's good, but he's a bloody centre-back. Look at what Lingard did for West Ham at the end of last season. He's bloody perfect for them, and goals win games. And we can't get 25 million for Lingard from West Ham. What the bloody hell are we doing? What? I'd love to know what it is, because David Moyes, manager of West Ham, certain West Ham players, Stuart Pearce, publicly have said they want Lingard. So the problem is the fee. The problem is the negotiations. Somewhere there is a problem. And how are United not able to sell a player to a club that wants the player desperately? It's just baffling. So we're sat here this morning knowing United have got to sell to buy, knowing that if we do sell, there are 3 or 4 players that suit the bill of what we need, knowing there's a club that wants to buy the player we can sell to then get the midfielder, it's just amazing. And it goes back to what I said before. The proof is in the pudding. The last 2 summer transfer windows, with an amazingly bloated, overpaid squad, we've sold 1 player, Chris Smalling, for 13 million, for money. And don't talk to me about Alexis Sanchez. That was a free transfer and we ended up paying a lot of him, paid him off. That's how we paid to get rid of Alexis Sanchez. So, yeah, it's baffling, it's frustrating, and I'm tired of hearing about United having to sell to buy. Why are we as fans infected with this sell to buy, bank balance book football club? We didn't choose this as fans. We didn't choose to be owned by people who are bank managers. We didn't choose to have to listen to, dividends and we've got to save money. We're Manchester United. We're looking at Manchester City. We're looking at Chelsea, and they're being run by football clubs. Like football clubs. We're being run much the same as Liverpool at the moment, but we're being run like a bloody business, and we're a football club. Why do we care about shareholders, dividends, debt, bottom lines, revenue streams? Like, we are a football club, and if we were run like a football club, we wouldn't even be in this situation. And even if we do buy a midfielder in the next 7 days, you know what? It's still too late. It's not, I don't want it, but it's too late. Why was this not done in July? Why are we now doing it at the end of the window? We've already dropped 2 points because we didn't have a midfielder. It's the same as bloody Bruno back in when we lost to Burnley. I said that. We lost to Burnley because the board were pissing about over 5 million. And we lost 3 points because of it. We dropped 2 points at the weekend because we haven't got a midfield. Every bloody summer transfer window, every January transfer window, they never learn. It's always the back end of the window, chaos and panic. And we're back there again. We could end up with nothing. We could end up selling Lingard and buying Camavinga. We could end up keeping Lingard and getting SOLSKJAER'S on a loan. Who knows what's going to happen? There's still time, but who knows? If people don't understand why we need Basuma, then they don't understand football. It's criminal we haven't bid for him, along with Ollie's starting 11 versus Southampton. Gauntlet season, says Tim. Well, yeah, I think it's going to be a very difficult season if we don't buy a midfielder. And it might be Look, I'm not going to sit here and say we buy a midfielder and we solve all our problems. I don't think we're one midfielder away from solving all our problems. We still struggle against a low block. We still don't create chances for our striker. We still look bad at defending set pieces. The tempo looks slow. The substitutions were not great at the weekend. Buying a midfielder doesn't change all that, but it certainly makes us a better proposition, and you would hope that would take us to the next level. But look, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens in the next few days. I'd still say what I said last night, what we were talking about last night is that Camavinga's choice number 1, SOLSKJAER'S looks like option 2. Ruben Neves, I'd write it off. I don't think we can do a deal for Ruben Neves in 6 days, and you've got to sell somebody as well. So I actually would officially say, forget Ruben Neves. It's Camavinga, it's SOLSKJAER'S, or it's nobody. And look, I think in the next 2 days we'll probably have to cross either one or both of those off. We are into the final, countdown now, especially as they're telling us we've got to sell to buy. I wish our board was competent enough to sell players like Lingard, Fred, so Ollie won't have those to choose from. These players will cost us points, says Savage. I mean, look, just very interesting because there's a couple of relevant stories I need to talk about here, but let's call a spade here. Everyone's going to have different opinions on what I'm about to say, but the reality is, I think if you look, Ollie's gone on holiday. Let's do a proper scenario. Ollie's been sacked, okay? For whatever reason, he's been sacked. I don't know. Think of something, right? He's basically, all right. Let's sack Ollie in a good way, right? Ollie's been sacked. He's gone online. He's done he's run Goldbridgey. Can I use United stand for a video? I'm gonna let loose. Let me on 8 o'clock tonight. Kadaki is coming on as well. So Ollie comes on the United stand tonight at 8 o'clock and he says, you know what? The Glazers are the biggest parasites this club's ever had. It's a disgrace. Woodward's useless. Everybody's useless. McFred, I was forced to pick them. They're useless, and he gets the sack. He goes out in a blaze of glory, right? Solskjaer, I don't know why I've just told a story about. Basically, it's a hypothetical. Solskjaer's been sacked, right? Bring in the manager that you want. Klopp, Pep, Potter, whoever it is. Bring in a manager that you want. I guarantee you that manager that you want is going to, and it's all hypothetical, but I know who the manager I would bring into United, and I'm 100% confident that they would rid the club of about 7 or 8 players straight away. And to be honest with you, I think one of Fred or McTominay would go straight away. I don't know who. And I think that you would not see certain players. I think Dan James would be gone because he's got value and he's not good enough. I think Lingard would go because he's got value but he's not quite good enough. Mata would be gone. I think Matic would go. I think there'd be a clear out of about 8 players. And this is what annoys me, is that we know we need the clear out of about 8 players. Yet in the last 2 summer transfer windows, we've sold 1. And this is the problem. It's not even a joke. It's not even a, sometimes you say things and you say it because you're sort of angry and you overreact. This ain't a joke. Every United fan knows this. We can't sell this deadwood. We can't get rid of it. We're useless. And people say, well, it's hard to sell players because they're on good wages. It's not hard to sell players. It's not hard to get rid of players at all. You just piss them off. You get them out. You pay them off. You get rid of them. But they'll never pay them off. We'll never pay them off because we're not a football club. We're a business. Anyway, talking about topical stuff. Probably worth mentioning that Manchester United could... Well, it's all about Paul Pogba again. Christian Falk has mentioned that United were interested in Kimmich and Goretzka, but both players were just, angling for new contracts at Bayern Munich, which they've got now. There is no doubt. The reason I bring Kimmich and Goretzka in is because it's an irrelevant story. Were we in for them? Weren't we in for them? Christian Falk is very close to Bayern Munich, and I think you could say that we were in for them. We were interested in them, but don't lose sight of the fact that throughout this summer and even now, we are constantly getting stories from credible journalists that United are looking at holding midfielders, or at the least people who can play in that sort of holding two. Don't lose sight of the fact that we wanted a holding midfielder this summer is all I'm going to say before I move on. We definitely want a holding midfielder. Now, whether that's Ollie, Carrick, Phelan, whatever, or as probably a collective, they want a holding midfielder and the board have failed them. Now, you can moan about the way we played on Sunday and you can try and make it about Ollie, but I've said this before, we're talking specifics about transfers here. We're talking about buying a midfielder. We're not talking about can we beat a low block. We're not talking about playing McTominay and Fred. We're not talking about not selling Lingard and James. We're talking about transfers here. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted a holding midfielder. The board have failed. That's where we're at. That's where we are. You can like Ollie, you can dislike Ollie, but he wanted a midfielder. There's reams of evidence of midfielders we've been interested in, and we've ended up with nothing so far. Do you think Ollie will play Camavinga if we buy him? I'm scared that he would say he's not ready yet and sits in beside Donny and the ball boy. Well, Akil, I think that's a valid point. Thank you for the super chat from Chris Scott as well. Can I just say this as well? I mean, look, I'm baffled by this. I'm sure people will say, well, you're thick if you can't understand it. But Real Madrid, I mean, we've just spent 4 months watching Perez have a meltdown publicly. He thinks he's it with his Super League. Now it's still going and no one wants to be in it. Real Madrid and Barcelona and Juventus are obsessed with the Super League because their finances are in a mess. They're in a mess. Absolute mess. They needed that Super League because they are losing money. They are. They've got stadiums to pay for. People are less interested in La Liga. They're desperate. What do Real Madrid do when they're desperate? They go and offer 150 million euros for Kylian Mbappe. Now, that's what goalkeepers do. It's goalkeepers. Somebody just said Ben Foster the GOAT. I don't know why people are saying Ben Foster the GOAT. But what I was going to say is that I predicted this about Barcelona and Real Madrid. People think that they're finished. They're not finished because they're football clubs. They're not finished yet. What they are is they are looking at they're in a bad situation. So what they do is they go and buy. They go and buy. What United do is we can't afford to buy because we're a business. What Real Madrid do, and Barcelona will do it as well, they are in a mess. Financially, they are in a mess. But they'll go and spend money to get them their way out of it. Now, it didn't work well for Barcelona. They spent a lot of money and they're in real trouble. Then it cost them Messi. But I'd rather be Barcelona than Manchester United. And people will say, well, that's stupid because that would be like Bruno walking out the door for free. Barcelona were run badly in a very different way to Manchester United. Barcelona and Real Madrid are football clubs and they are beholden to their fans. Now, Barcelona have made a bloody mess of it, but they tried to buy their way out of it, and it went wrong. I'd rather be owned by owners who actually want us to be a football club. If we went bankrupt, we wouldn't go bankrupt. If we got into financial difficulties because we acted like Barcelona, it would be very, very angry and very frustrated. But bottom line is, it's just an idiot who's run that club and made mistakes. At United, it's like we could go bankrupt because we're run by businessmen who make us operate round the bottom line through debt and dividends and don't run us like a football club. And the point is that Real Madrid are going to spend £150 million on Mbappe when apparently La Liga's dead and apparently Real Madrid are on the decline. Yet they're going to go and do a deal like that. They've lost Ramos for free. Varane's walked out the door. They're going to buy Mbappe because they want to get back. They're not going to just sit there and go, this is the end of Real Madrid for 20 years. This is the end of La Liga for 10 years. They're going to try and get their way back as a football club. €150 million, that's more than we've spent this summer. And yet we're in the Premier League in the richest league in the world, which everybody predicts in the next 10 years is going to get richer and richer and richer, and yet we're being outspent by Real Madrid, who are showing more ambition than we are to try and get back on the top of Europe. And that is a frustration. But the interesting thing here is that if Mbappe goes to PSG this summer for €150 million, it's probably not going to be enough time. But PSG have suddenly got the money to buy Pogba. And this was reported this morning. PSG want Pogba, and they're basically saying, wait till next year and we'll get you on a free transfer. But there is a story there this morning that if that money came in quick enough from Mbappe, they may try and get Pogba. Now, they'll probably wait a year, but it just shows you how quick clubs think. We're sat here with 6 days to go going, we ain't got enough time to sell Lingard and buy a player when we have. Yet, Mbappe's not even gone to Real Madrid yet, and there's a story that if that happens, PSG might make a late bid for Pogba. Now, it better bloody not happen because we can't afford to lose Paul Pogba. But on the other hand, imagine Mbappe goes to Real Madrid for €150 million, right? And then on transfer deadline day, PSG come in and go, we'll give you £70 million for Paul Pogba. Well, United are going to lose him for nothing in a year's time. It's all right going, we can't let Pogba go because he's so important to the season, but in a year's time we're going to lose him for nothing, and there's 70 million. A lot of people would go, well, you've got to take the 70 million. I wouldn't. I'd be like, well, that's the Glazers' fault. We've got to keep him. Ollie's decision making and favouritism will cost us again. He can be a great manager because he's very positive, but he needs to improve his tactics, says Richmond. Yeah, well, I think ultimately we're in for a very, very interesting end of the transfer window, and nobody knows which way it's going to go. We have got time, and a competent club wouldn't have put us in this position anyway, but a competent football club who wants to be successful on the pitch would make something out of this last week. If this is Chelsea or it's Man City, you can guarantee they're going to get something done in the next week. They will. I still think Arsenal will do something. They always do stuff late in the window. But United, I think there'll be a lot of you sat there going, that's it, it's over. I don't know. I still think United have got a history over the last few transfer windows of doing things on transfer deadline day. If you think about Cavani, you think about Agallo, I think we could do something, and maybe it's going to be Saul Niguez. And if we do get Saul Niguez, I'm certainly not going to moan about it like I did Cavani because that backfired big time. But that was just frustration. I get frustrated with how, even if we do get Niguez in, like, is that what the plan was? Cavani wasn't the plan last summer. It worked, but it wasn't the plan. And sometimes that can work. But yeah, I think at the moment, and I don't like sitting on the fence, I have a feeling we will do something. But obviously, I'm not going to be surprised if we don't. I'll be disgusted. But I do think that there is an opportunity there for United to do something. There is time. And I will keep saying this, whatever you think about Solskjaer, he definitely wants a holding midfielder. It's just not been given. So, is definitely that. Any panic buys? Well, I think Saul Niguez would technically be a panic buy because there's an element of risk there, of course. Ben Foster is in the chat, says Adam Joe. I don't think it's the real Ben Foster because I'm sure he would have a tick. I think he's verified, so I think it would be. I don't think it is him, but if it is, he's very, very welcome. And so let's get this straight. Dan James 25 million, Lingard 25 million, Dean Henderson 40 million, Declan Rice 100 million. Says Toxic Chaos. Yeah, I mean, look, we at the start of the summer transfer window, we sat here as a community and we discussed Ben Foster in, League Rent Out, says hey H. We basically acted like director of footballs, didn't we? We said in May we need, because to be fair, United have spent 100 million. And at the start of the summer, I was like, well, let's pretend United have got no money. You need to generate £100 million. And we were like, not Ben Foster. Dean Henderson goes for 40 million. Easy to sell. No, I'm not saying Henderson over. It's not the Henderson versus De Gea thing. It's about we needed to get rid of a goalkeeper and one of them you could sell. Dean Henderson 40 million. Jesse Lingard 25 million. That's 65. Dan James 25 million. That's 90 million, isn't it? Yeah. 3 players, 90 million. All right, you don't sell Dean Henderson. You can still raise 50 off Dan James and Jesse. So there was opportunities there, but ultimately, I think United have sat there and gone, don't want to sell him, don't want to sell him, don't want to sell him, and ultimately that is a failure because you can't sit. It's like, you know what it's like. It's like playing Football Manager, which is a bit like football, right? You've got this massive squad, but you can't pick everybody. And United, grab a piece of pen and paper and go through our squad at the moment. It's all right saying, oh, I don't want to sell this player, I don't want to sell that player. But you've got too many players. And you can't bring other players in when you've got that many. Because it just creates this massive... We're probably spending about £4 million a month on wages for players that we don't use. And we're not going to use. I mean, easily I can get to, Phil Jones, Dan James, Jesse Lingard, Matic, Mata, Donny, I can probably get to £1 million a week quite easily on wages of players that are really hardly going to be used at all. You can't sit there. I'm not going to blame Ollie for this. I'm going to blame the board. The board cannot be a competent board when it is allowing the club to carry wages of millions of pounds a month and not use those players. That's a big hint that they shouldn't be there. So if I was director of football or I was, chief executive, I would have sat down with Ollie and Carrick and Phelan in May and I would have said, look, we need to bring players in. I know football. I know we need to bring midfielders in, but we've got to trim the squad, right? Now, I'm not going to tell you that you've got to get rid of Phil Jones because nobody can sell Phil Jones. It's impossible. But we can sell Lingard. We can sell Dan James and we can sell Dean Henderson because people will buy them. And that's 3 players off straight away. We can release Juan Mata because he's out of his contract. We can definitely get rid of Matic to Italy for about 5 million. So that's 5 straight away. We get rid of those 5 players. We probably free up about £1 million a week in wages and we generate about 60, 70, 80 million pounds in transfer funds. If Ollie says to me, I don't want to lose them, then I say, well, you're not having anybody. You're not going to use them, Ollie. They've got to go. So I don't know why these conversations don't take place. James and 10 million for Basuma, no brainer, says Dave. Yeah, we're not in for Basuma, are we? We're not in for him. Welcome to the Members Club, Chris Slater. Captain Price says you can't just sell your whole squad. You are clueless, mate. You don't even know what Manchester United is and you don't even belong in this channel. You can't sell your whole team, says Captain Price. You need a squad, you're clueless. Those 5 players I've just got... Do you realise we've got a senior squad? That senior squad means people over 22. We've got over 25 players over 22. I've just got rid of 5 players. That leaves us with 20 plus youth players. We've got more than enough. And you're bringing Sancho and Varane in. So... We can easily get rid of 5 senior players and still have a bigger squad than most people in Europe. We are bloated. 5 players out of that team. And look, all right, Dean Henderson goes. You've got David De Gea and you've got Tom Heaton. Oh, we're not going to miss him. Dan James and Jesse Lingard go. We've got Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, Sancho, Pogba, Bruno, Elanga, Ahmad. That's 8 players for 3 positions. And I've just got rid of James, Mata and Lingard, who also play in those areas. We're keeping those 3. So you're not listening. You're not thinking about how big our squad is. We could easily have sold 5 players and still had a massive squad. Show Retire as well. Drazik, thank you very much. But also, what you're not understanding about what I'm saying there is, I'm not saying sell them and don't replace them. You sell them to bring other players in. That's the whole bloody point. Anyway, look, we'll talk and talk and talk. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Let's just see what happens. Hopefully there's going to be some developments. There is time. But the bottom line for me is that all eyes are on the board again. And whatever they do, it's bloody late. It's chaotic and late again. But remember this. In the last 2 years, the last 2 summer transfer windows, we have sold 1 player for money. Chris Smalling, Roma, 13 million. We've got the biggest overpaid, bloated squad in the Premier League, and we've sold 1 player in 2 summer transfer windows. How is that an improvement? How have we improved our transfer setup? Yes, Sancho and Varane are fantastic. Solskjaer wanted a holding midfielder. He can't get one because our incompetent board have failed again. And the evidence is there. They can prove us wrong, but as we sit here now with 6 days left, they have failed again. They've sold nobody. And yet they put it out there, we've got to sell to buy. It's your fucking job to sell. Do it. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching. Make sure you download the OneFootball app for all your latest football news. Links in the video description. It's free on Apple and Android. Give it a download. Give it a try. Kieran says, hi Mark, I agree with you fully. For you, who would be better option between Neguez and Neves? Controversial, Kieran, but I'd probably go Neves because he's more of he plays in the position that we need more than Neguez. Neguez could be a diamond in the rough. He could play that role. He can do it, but Neves is Premier League proven and plays in that role more than Neguez does. So I would go with Neves because you don't want to be doing square pegs, round holes. But look, we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all in a bit.